What to do when you don't know what to do. You know, life happens, and sometimes it'll hit you all at once, one thing after another, and you feel confused and wondering what to do and how to handle this, and I'm doing all the right things, and why is this happening, and all of that questioning and not knowing what to do, the fear of the unknown. How is this all going to work out? I'm scared. You know, you feel that panic, and then it's like the despair, and then resignation. Oh my gosh, you know, questioning God and your faith, and you know, it gets to where it's overwhelming. And so what do? Well, I know what I do. I'll kind of wallow in some self-pity, resign to my lot in my life. One more time. I got to go through this one more time. What am I supposed to learn from this? You know, I'm in personal development. I've been in recovery for years. What do you want me to learn, God? Questioning, doubt. And it's painful. And it's uncomfortable. So I'm going to talk about this today. I'm going to use some personal experience and be a little vulnerable here, which I'm not real good at. And I want to talk about the things that I do to keep from panicking. And that's kind of where I'm at. I am trying to fight the panic of what's going on in my life. When you're in this space, panic is your enemy. Now, I'm not saying you won't be afraid, because fear is a natural human emotion. Panic is another thing. And I have to really fight panic. And I have felt some of that lately. I've had several financial things come at me all at once. Now, they say things come in threes. I hear this a lot. I don't have any research to back that up, but people say that, you know, bad things come in threes. Well, does that mean good things come in threes? But I've had about 5, and it's been overwhelming, and I have felt uncomfortable. And so I have had to pull out the things that help me make it through each day to deal with these things that keep coming at me. And so I'm going to go through those. Like I said, number 1, fight the panic. How do I do this? The best way I know to stay out of panic is to stay in the present moment. I can't do anything about the past, and I can't do anything about the future. I have to stay in the present moment. And I can get into ruminating about the past, and why didn't I do this? Why didn't I take care of this? Why is this happening now? Why? Those are judgments. And, you know, I can't. In that panic mode and the regret, then my brain gets all muddled up. Or I can start worrying about the future and get fixated on what's going to happen in the future. The what ifs, the oh no's, and I have to stay in the present moment. In that present moment is where solutions to this is. Not in the past, not in the future, but the present moment. And what helps me do that is to pray. And my faith gets shaken when this stuff happens. And so I have to feed my faith with the promises of God. And I do that. And this is what I do. You can do what's right for you. But I make these little note cards. And you can put positive affirmations on them. You can, whatever is working for you at the time. But scripture works for me. and I read it out loud. And the one go-to that I have when I get hit with stuff is Philippians 4:6-8. And it says, be anxious for nothing, but with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which pass all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. So this centers me. Now this doesn't mean, this doesn't say that some man's going to show up on my front porch with a bunch of sack of hundreds and my problem's going to be solved. It says I will have peace. There's no peace in panic. No peace at all. And I can't do day-to-day stuff to walk through whatever it is I'm going through if I'm in a panic mode. I get into the fight or flight, survival. My cortisol raises and my brain muddles and I can't function. So I fight panic. That's the first thing. The next thing I do is I focus on what I can change and not what I can't. I can change my perspective about this, or my attitude, or how I think and feel. You know, I can take action. Now, I usually try not to take action till later. That's a later thing to do. So at this point, it's all about focusing on what I can control. And that's me. That's my emotions. That's my thinking. So talk to a trusted friend. That's usually the next step. To bounce this stuff off of them, to process my feelings, to just, I call it therapeuting, you know, about all the stuff. And just, you know, if I'm angry or I feel overwhelmed or, you know, and I can talk to that trusted friend and they become the voice of reason because I have no reasoning at this time. And reasoning comes from frontal lobe development, cognitive thinking in the front, reasoning, and not the lizard brain of survival. So that helps me get back into my parasympathetic nervous system, lowers my cortisol, calms me down just a little bit. And then I can start with some action. And the first action I take is I gather information. You know, if you're struggling with a health crisis, you know, gather information. Seek professional help. Financial, you know, with me, I may need to go see a financial advisor. You know, I'm retired and that limited income and not being young, you know, when you're young and you get hit by some financial stuff, you have time. Time is a resource that you never get back. So, you know, I gather the information and I write about it. Maybe I need to sit down, you know, with someone else and figure stuff out. And this involves someone else in my household. So my husband and I might need to sit down and write out things, weigh the consequences, good or bad, of the decisions we might make, collaborate, and then I begin to get some inspiration about what I might need to do. And then I can take the inspired action. Spiritual seeking. You know, that spirit within and that intuitive feeling of which step do I need to take next. Slowly. You know, when I feel uncomfortable, I want to jump to and fix, and so that I don't have to feel uncomfortable. And I have made some bad decisions in my life running on survival mode. And so I've learned to slow down, look at the whole picture, look at the big picture, but take small steps, inspired steps. And if I head that way and it don't work, then I pull back. This is a difficult space to be in. I always say, when God shuts one door, He will open another one. But it can be hell in the hall. So I've learned to decorate my hall. And this is how I do it. You know, it started in February, and I got my car insurance needed to be renewed, and it had doubled because of comprehensive accident that we had last year. Then I received a doctor bill from that wreck of almost a year ago. And, you know, we've already made all the claims. So how do I pay this doctor bill? And then my income tax was way more than what I expected. I'm still working on that. I get that gut feeling that it's just something's wrong with it. You know, my income's not that much. I shouldn't have to pay that much. And we had a vehicle that needed to be fixed, and what needed to be worked on was under warranty. And then they get into it, and there's this one part of the truck that wasn't under warranty, and it was expensive. $10,000. And I'm just like, and maybe I should learn not to do this. What else? Oh no. And so last Friday night, well, it was actually Saturday morning early, I heard this sound like bombs going off. And I thought, what's going on? And I asked my husband, is that hail? And he said, yeah, I think so. And it started hailing so hard, golf ball size hail. And I got up, and it was frightening, the sound. And I kept standing there thinking, waiting for the freight train, because when it hails like that and the wind's whipping that stuff everywhere, there's a tornado. Thank goodness there wasn't. But our vehicles were beat to hell with hail damage. It was like, oh no. And I stood there and looked at those vehicles the next day and thought, both of them, another hit on our insurance. And I just was in despair. And so I started working through this. This is kind of the process that I go through to get to the other side, or to get to where I can make informed decisions or do some things about this stuff. Some things I can't do anything about, but I have to figure out, you know, how am I going to address paying a big old car repair. And financial insecurity has always been my biggest hurdle. And it goes right back to that. And so I trust, I have faith that things are going to work out. And I give myself some grace. If you're going through a struggle, give yourself some grace, some compassion. You know, there's a lot of power in accepting where you're at and accepting how you feel. And that, you know, I can sit in resignation. And there is no power in resignation, but there's some power in acceptance. If you like what I share here, please subscribe, hit like, share this with someone that you think might need it. I'm gonna post my the 5 pieces of advice that I think are the best, that have been the best for me. And you can watch that here. And remember to be you on purpose.